Hey everybody, Rook here, and today I am joined by amateur professional aka DJ, whose long flowing locks are rivaling mine here with the pandemic hair. My gosh, you should go full silver again. I think that'd be amazing.
I want to do it. We're thinking about doing a like Geralt Yennefer thing for a Ren Fair coming up.
Yes, please and thank you. Everybody needs silver hair, but especially you and I don't know. I just feel like would be a good matching duo. You know what? I can be your auxiliary Geralt in case you need like a stand-in for this Ren Fair that you're about to do.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. But more so than the incredible Geralt cosplay coming to you soon from Amateur Professional, DJ and I actually worked together on the cover of Final Fantasy XIV's Answers that we released at the end of the year on the channel, which still feels like a dream, my friend.
It feels like a long time ago, and that's how they always feel. Like during it feels like an eternity, and then once it's over, it feels like an eternity ago.
I know. I honestly thought like the whole, I don't know, couple months that we were working on stuff beforehand felt like it was lasting forever. And I kept thinking like I was partially terrified of when we actually had the recording and also super excited because I was just so ready to do it. And then it just happened. And now it's been several months and the video's out and it's there. And I keep having to remind myself.
Yeah, it's a whirlwind. It just picks you up and takes you along with it. And either you can fight it or you can just go along for the ride. That's how they always go.
I mean, yeah, I feel like we went along for the ride pretty well. I feel very proud of what we accomplished. For anybody who doesn't know, Answers is actually the main theme of Final Fantasy XIV. It was originally composed by Nobuo Uematsu, arranged by Tsutomu Narita, and then the lyrics were written by Yaeko Sato and Michael Christopher Koji Fox. So we had a duo on the lyrics, but it was originally performed by an American musician, Susan Calloway, who just, oh my god, just knocks it out of the park. Oh my god, just amazing. But we did our own humble cover of it here in December 2nd, 2021 was actually when it went out and came out on YouTube. And we did this in celebration of Endwalker, which is the most recent expansion that just came out for Final Fantasy XIV. Again, another thing that I can't believe happened and that I've played and that is out and done, and now we're looking ahead to the future. Like, what? We wanted to get together to just talk a little bit about the music video. We've had a lot of people asking about how we made it and talking on stream about it a little bit, but I thought I only know so much because as everybody kept calling me on set, I was the talent, which let me just say is like a phrase that just goes to your head. I'm over here like, hey, yeah, I'm a huge nerd. I like video games. I do content creation. I walk on the set. Everybody was just like, the talent is here.
Did they ever invite you to set?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I got my call times, but I didn't get like a formal invitation.
Because like sometimes what'll happen is like we can never tell talents to go to set, but we can say you have been invited to set, and then you may go to set if you so choose.
Is that really what happens on film sets?
Sometimes, yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, well, like, next. Oh, go ahead.
Most of the time, they'll go with it, and it's like, hey, you're invited to set, and that means like get to set. But sometimes it's a problem, and things take longer than they should. But you did great.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, I mean, I was lucky in that I had you driving me around and or everybody that was involved with the production just being like, Rook, you need to go right now. And I think like the one morning that I was really running behind, thankfully everybody had a lot to set up anyway. So it wasn't that I declined the invitation to set. It was just that it was very early in the morning and I had a lot of hair to curl.
Yeah. Hair and makeup always, that always takes the longest.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's amazing. So for anybody who might not have gotten it yet, DJ works in the film industry. DJ is a pro in this. DJ is also a pro Halo player. And you will now get to see the beautiful face of DJ that goes along with the Deej voice on our Halo playthroughs here on YouTube as well. But, man, I just feel so lucky that you and I met, honestly. This is a bit of a diversion from even the stuff we had planned out. But it's wild. I mean, Deej, we've known each other now how many years since we five?
5 or 6, I think. 5 or 6.
5 or 6 since you first came into the Twitch chat. I wasn't a full-time streamer. I was just dabbling. I was like, oh yeah, maybe Twitch would be a fun thing. Long before I really went into content creation, and you were one of the very first viewers that ever showed up in chat.
I want to say I was the 7th follower, I think.
I think
like
probably.
it was an early number. Like I was there early.
And now, remind me, what was the DJ catchphrase for a really long time that made me think that you were a bot anytime you came into chat?
Good evening, streamer.
10 in the morning, good evening, streamer.
Of course.
3 in the afternoon, good evening, streamer. 10 o'clock at night, good evening, streamer, which was appropriate.
I mean, what is time? Like, I'm a film dude. The sun rises and sets, and that doesn't determine when my morning is. I mean, you kind of experience that, so I would get off work and sit down, and it's evening for me.
I mean, it's true. And I can see how fast the days go by now. I mean, oh my gosh, even just hearing everybody on set talking when we were filming the video, talking about their own like professional careers and what it's like on the film sets that they shoot on usually, I was just sitting there like, I mean, I did theater and I did some, you know, student film projects and stuff like that, although I mostly did stage acting and singing. So I haven't like been on an all-day professional film set ever, and it was one of those things where it's like, in theory you have an idea about it, but then hearing everybody talk about it, yeah, I could see how you would lose track of what time or existence or hours of normal humans are.
And we did really good. Like, typically speaking, film sets are 12-hour days, and we stayed around 8 for hours. So, like, we did really good to make sure that we optimized what we had with who we had.
Yeah, I mean, and that's thanks to you and Jordan and everybody else that, I mean, was just so on it and scheduling everything. So thank you, everybody.
Jordan saved us
so
many times.
God, yes. So this video that we did was actually produced by Jordan Wilson, who is a longtime friend of DJ's. And I just want to be honest, like, an extreme and ultimate powerhouse in a way that I could never ever possibly be. I have never met somebody so together. And Jordan the whole time is like, no, I'm not really like, you know, I'm not really that together. But Jordan's over there as well with like every single minute of the schedule written out, you know, shepherding people around, juggling 50 things all at once. I couldn't believe it. I see how she gets paid to do it.
To give like an even like more in-depth look, she'll say like, oh, like I don't have everything together. We are months out from a trip to Anaheim for a film festival, and she's already got like all of the stops to and back planned out, and is like, I'm just waiting on the festival people to send me a schedule to know what to do.
That's incredible to me. I need to channel that power. I need Jordan Wilson's power. I need Jordan to make me like a crystal of light and then just like pass it to me. And then anytime that I need that extra heroic boost for scheduling, I can just like use the power with it. So the music video that we did, produced by Jordan Wilson, the ultimate powerhouse, and directed by one DJ Zachary, who is here with me right now. But you also did a little bit of everything. So how would you encompass, do you feel like director is all you want said in this moment? Or, I mean, you also were manning the cameras, you did all kinds of other stuff. How would you list everything that you did during the music video?
So if you were to put a title on everything I did, it would be a long title. So I just, like, director is fine, director photography. Those are the two main things.
Mr. Director?
Yes, talent.
And our music, so the composition was arranged by actually a stream team member of mine, Ann Dorco. But if you watch the video, I mean, there are so many people in the credits. There were so many people that helped or that, you know, contributed in some way. So definitely check everyone out because it's an amazing list. And we literally could not have done it without everybody. So thank you all so much. It was incredible. And you never really know getting into these kinds of projects when you're sort of doing them on a whim and out of the passion of your heart, just how it's all going to come together, who's going to even want to be a part of it. But I mean, oh my gosh, it's incredible. We were saying we've known each other 5-6 years, to have met each other, become friends, discover that, you know, we had these intersections of interests and, you know, creation and stuff like that. And then to be doing something like this years down the road with a bunch of people that you know literally from the film industry was, I mean, Thanks, Deej. That was awesome. It was so cool.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
So, I think we should probably kick off the official behind-the-scenes questions with one of the most important ones, which is, you play Final Fantasy XIV yourself.
I do. I want to say that I've been subscribed for about 5 years now. Because I got into the... Yeah, weird. Wonder what started that. Started about 5 years ago. I've been a little inactive recently, but I did a little bit of Savage raiding, little bit of RP, a lot of G-pose, a lot of G-pose.
What I love is like envisioning now the very serious Mr. Director Manager DJ from set who's like behind a steady cam, and then you in the world of Final Fantasy with the G-pose button, like framing your shots perfectly.
It's fun. It's all the same thing. I enjoy it. Like I really like. I enjoy it a lot, so I keep doing it everywhere I can.
I mean, that's fair. I think many of us are G-pose addicts, so you just happen to have the polish flare professional training to really make them look amazing. And they do. DJ's screenshots are amazing. I just want to be clear about that, everybody. But what is your main class in game?
My main class is Monk right now. I've thought about trying Reaper or Sage, but Monk is just fun. I always feel like I have something to do. It's very dynamic. You change a lot. And I hear that now the meta for Monk is just incredibly intense. And that's what I've always liked about it, is its combo is like just pages long that will last all the way into the next stage of some boss fights.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It is. I mean, it's been really interesting with Endwalker. Obviously, they did a little bit of a revamp, and they kind of introduced this new mechanic, and it seems like a lot of the Monk mains that I know, I've heard that it's really promising, but that it took a little bit to kind of figure out how they wanted to vibe with it and, like, get the rotation smooth, and that they feel like there's still more work that can be done on it. So I'll be really curious when you actually start, like, really diving into new Monk, what your thoughts and feedback are. Because
they got rid of positionals, right? Like, that's one of the biggest things that they did?
I think they severely cut back on them.
Yeah.
I'm thinking back, yeah.
And I don't know how to feel about that, because that's one of the things that I enjoyed about Monk was, even if I was not actively pressing a button, I was having to move to position myself for the next button press. So, I don't know.
We'll see. I mean, the good thing is that no matter what, punching people with your fists, I think, is a solid mood, and it just is very cool in video games.
It's very fun. Incredibly fun. You recommend it.
So, we talked a little bit about what got you into 14. Would you say that I was a direct influence on that, DJ? I just want to really get it here on film. Like, did I play like a small role?
A little bit. Yeah, yes. You are the main reason that I got into Final Fantasy XIV. I have you to thank for the countless hours that I've spent, and the however many dollars I've spent on the game can all be attributed to you, so thank you.
Great, awesome. That was really nice, DJ. Thanks for mentioning how much money you've spent in the game, so that if Square Enix watches, they're like, oh yeah, good investment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm kidding. But also, thank you. Yeah, that was great.
So I know how the game works.
But what inspired you to get into film? Like, obviously, you wouldn't have been able to do this project if you hadn't. So what got you into making movies and doing film stuff?
So it actually goes back a while. I was originally... how far back can I go? It was about 10 years ago I suffered a fracture of one of my vertebrae while playing football in high school. And I still wanted to help the team, so I got on the camera. And I really, really enjoyed the camera, so I kept doing camera stuff for all the sports. And then one of my teachers, Miss Owen, actually suggested I go to one of the colleges nearby. So I went and learned about this weird, industry called film, and I said, I don't care, I want to be a camera operator. And then it's just ballooned into this career that absorbs me every single day, and I just can't get enough of it.
I love it. I mean, honestly, it's so cool. And having seen you work now, I mean, it's fun because you always know that your friends do what they do, and that, especially depending on the friend, they do it well. I mean, just talking to you, I could tell that you knew a lot about film, and not in just like a pretentious way or anything. But it was a really different experience to even just have heard you talk about it so much and being on set, and then to actually get to do a project with you. I mean, I told you on set, I'm over here, everybody, I was like, It's like DJ comes by, there's like a million things happening. I'm just like, DJ, I'm so proud of you. DJ, you're so good at movie stuff. And DJ's like, okay, Rook, thanks. I have like 50 other things I need to do right now.
You were like sat down at a table just on your phone and I'm doing it. I was like, do you need anything? And you're like, I'm just so proud. I was like, okay, that's great. Awesome. Great. I gotta go.
Well, DJ, that's because I am the talent. So I had my special chair. I did actually have a special chair that Jordan got me, and I did feel special in it.
It's comfortable, right? Those director's chairs are comfortable.
It's super comfy. It was very nice. So thank you, Jordan. I appreciate that. That's awesome, though. I mean, it's so funny because I think a lot of times in the gaming space, there's this discussion or like these divisions because a lot of us did grow up as, I mean, let's be real, nerdy kids or nerdy theater kids, or even if we were nerdy in some way, you know, it was integrated somehow, but in many, like, with so many people, there are so many different things that can come together. Like, I know just as many gamers that also love sports. I know just as many people, you know what I mean? Like, there's all these crossovers that people sometimes try to make these hard lines on. But I love that, like, your journey took you from playing sports to filming sports to discovering this creative outlet, like, down the road, even, I mean, applying it to Sweet G Pose in Final Fantasy XIV. But, like, it's amazing to me because I never think in the gaming space that you can wholly know just off of like meeting somebody everything that they're into and all of their interests and talents. It's what makes it so exciting to get to like meet people and even collaborate on projects like this, or you know, talk to that one person you thought was a bot in chat and lo and behold here you are years later making a music video.
Yeah, absolutely. Support bots.
Yeah, no, don't do that. No. So let's talk about when I got the idea to do this music video, and I messaged you and I proposed the idea that we try to do this wild thing for the release of Endwalker. You know, from my personal perspective, I talked about this a little bit in the comments on the video and live on Twitch when I've been streaming or when I was showing or debuting the video, but I went to music school. So DJ went to film school and I went to voice and theater school, and that's what I ended up studying. So I've always really loved singing, and gosh, I mean, if you have ears and you've listened to Final Fantasy soundtrack, any of them, but 14's in particular in this case, they're so good. Which don't do that face at me, DJ. This man that is with me right now, this one is the same person who made this music video and went absolutely full out with it, told me for ages that he didn't listen to the music in Final Fantasy.
I'm going to be 100% honest with you.
Don't.
When you said, I want to do a music video for Answers, I had to go, which one's that one?
Oh, DJ, it's okay because you did a wonderful job and you invested all in on this song, but as someone who has cried to this song since I first heard it, your words wound me.
I'm sorry, but to be fair, I think that I have now listened to this song more than about 90% of the Final Fantasy population, because I have listened to it on repeat for hours and hours and days to get it right. And
that, everyone, is why I made DJ collaborate with me on this music video of Answers. You all thought it was in celebration of Endwalker, but actually it was just to make DJ listen to 14 soundtrack. I would actually do that.
Make the video.
Oh, well, I mean, you know, it's an amazing song. No, I mean, it's okay, I get, no. I just, like, I have to be honest, so much of the music in 14 really speaks to me, and speaks to me in a way that, like, I find myself thinking about the songs all the time, like, listening to them even when I'm not in the game, or thinking about the context and storytelling around them, and I think a lot of us in the community probably have that song. You know, you can comment, tell me which one is your, you know, big one that has just stuck with you over the years, but one of the ones for me, and probably the most prominent one, has been Answers. I have always found the lyrics to be incredibly moving to me. I guess just the themes of what we all search for, what we all look for, how we all live our lives and keep pushing through even in the darkest of times, and that even if there is no clear-cut answer, by striving for it together and trying to find and make meaning in our lives together, we fill our lives with something more and something that's more profound. And I have sung it in the shower, just every morning I cried, and I figured, well, why not like record myself doing that, just not in the shower. So it would have been a very different video if we'd gone that route. No, but yeah, it was just a song that's really stuck with me and that I've loved. And I hadn't sung a lot after college. You know, when you're in like a really strict conservatory environment, I think some of the joy of music is kind of stripped out of you a little bit. Everything is so competitive, and it took me a while to get back to the point where I remember just what it was to be in love with music and singing again. And 14 was a huge part of that. I couldn't resist the songs, and so I knew, I was like, I have to do this. It was also partially because I actually got to see Susan Calloway perform it when she was in Chicago in 2019 doing the Distant Worlds concert, and just seeing her up there and her energy and the passion for this song. I mean, I was, again, in tears in the audience, but, you know, it reminded me of how much power there is in sharing meaning through music, I guess, if that makes sense. So I wanted to do something that I knew that was special, that maybe I could just contribute, and that would be something that would mean a lot to get to share with everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's something that you enjoy and you wanted to, you know, show your appreciation for it in the best way that you knew how.
Yes, yeah. And I honestly, I had no idea, and we'll talk about it later, I had no idea what was in store with Endwalker. At the time, I was just like, I love this piece of music. It is so profound to me, and if there are any words I want to sing to talk about what 10 years, 11 years of this game has meant to me, I want it to be these ones. So it's so funny to me that it actually ended up being so heavily featured in Endwalker, but also, who nailed it, Deej? This was my attempt at like a digital high five. Yeah! Insert clap effect there. But
we did it.
We did it. How about you? How did you feel when I messaged you out of the blue one day and was like, hey, Deej, you want to do a music video for a song you don't even remember?
So it was actually, like, the perfect timing, because I had just hooked Jordan Wilson. We had actually, like, started to get the very, very early gears turning for just a completely different project. We wanted to do, like, a one-shot, 5-minute, like, home invasion, like, horror bank robber thing. It was this whole thing. And we were like in the early stages, but then you sent that, and I already had Jordan Wilson like on board for a project. So I sat down with her. I was like, okay, listen, I know that I said we're doing this one thing. We're not doing that anymore. Like, drop it completely. And we just kept the gears spinning, and like that's why I sent like a couple times, because immediately out the gate, because I was getting the wheel spinning for this other project, I just took all of the resources that I had and shifted it over. And that's why I kept sending messages like, you're ready for this, right? Like, this is happening. Like, you're sure this is what you want. This is happening. And I guess it never got through what was happening, like how big we were getting. And I really didn't know how big we were getting until we were buying gallons of kerosene. And I went, huh, we're getting big. That's still in my garage. I should probably do something about that, but
yeah, we can do a director's cut of the music video. You can get some more footage of things on fire and just shove it into an extended cut.
I mean, yeah, we could do it. Let's do it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, it did end up getting big, but it was so exciting, and it was, you know, tough too, because I think with the pandemic, right, and everything else that's been going on, I know like Deej had asked me to possibly be part of a different project, you know, a little while ago, and I was so bummed because that was like right around the time that the pandemic was like really ramping up in that first big wave, and we were getting closer and closer to it, and I was just going, I don't know, like my partner doesn't feel comfortable with me flying, we didn't have vaccines at the time, like it was so unpredictable. And then when we got to, you know, doing this music video and we're checking in, and you're like, are you really sure, because like things are happening, and I am like, Rook, I am getting people to do this, and I was like, yes, like lock it in, we had vaccines at that point. I was just going, look, I have, and of course everybody be responsible, but I was like, I've quarantined, everything has been so intense, and everybody was so good too on the set talking about like, how do we feel, like, where are we comfort wise, does everybody need to be masked, not masked, all that kind of stuff, are we all vaccinated, that it just felt like one of those things to just go for. So yeah, once we committed, we just went for it. You went so hard, DJ.
I tried. I threw everything that I had at it.
I mean, it was amazing, and it turned out amazing. So I'm really glad. Honestly, with that in mind, why don't you talk a little bit about how, I guess, you prepared, but we can talk, larger scale about how we both prepared for this, but how did you prepare to make something like this? Like, what kind of things, you already had some gears rolling, but what kind of things did you end up having to bring together as we got ready for this and put it all into this couple of days of shooting?
Mm-hmm. So some of the first things were, obviously I needed Jordan Wilson. Like, I needed a producer that knew what she was doing, like had the resources, like just knew how to do her job and do it efficiently. And she is undoubtedly the best person that I know for it. So I needed to get her on. And then I needed to get there were three main things that I needed. I needed a producer that knew what was happening, a gaffer who could realize the light setups that I was having, and a editor that could, because I already knew that there were going to be VFX, like almost immediately out the gate. Whenever I sat down the first time and like planned out, kind of looked at the different shots that I wanted, like looked at some reference music videos, I was like, okay, these are the three people that I need. So I picked the best three that I knew, and that was Jordan Wilson, Tristan Chisholm, and Morgan Bryant. So the first thing that we needed to do was to get everyone in the room with a storyboard artist, Zach. So we sat down, I had printouts of different scenes from different music videos, different movies of like, I want this shot, I want something that looks like this, I want something that feels like this. Because a lot of it isn't like, I couldn't replicate a shot exactly, but it wasn't about replicating a shot, it was about extracting what it feels like and putting it into our video. So then once that was done, the gaffer knew what lights he needed, what, diffusions, what blackout curtains. Jordan, bless her heart, was like, okay, I guess we need to figure out how to make a wall of fire. And then Morgan was like, awesome, I have to learn even more about After Effects. And then Zach, the storyboard artist, was like, this is way more than you said that you were going to have, so I guess we're doing this. And then just going from there, and every little thing from Jordan messaging me constantly of like, we need glue, we need rubber, like we need this. Morgan, saying like, I need to know how to do this. Do we have this plugin? What's happening with this? Do we have the song? Tristan and I sat down for hours and hours, and all of those little individual LEDs were us just soldering each and every individual one and twisting the wires together and getting it all to work. And it was a lot. Like, there were 2 days of shooting, but 2 months of prep.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe when you started like messaging me, like Deej would send me, a message and say, here's a video. What do you think of the look of this video? And then would send me a few little bullet points of like things to look for in case you don't know what the look is. Like the fuzzy kind of quality, the way this light looks, how this is. And then would say, is this what you're thinking? And I'd go, oh, yeah, I really like that. I mean, I don't think there was a single thing you sent me that I was like, that's garbage, no! But, like, it was all pretty much in line. And some interesting things with different lenses and all these different qualities that you don't necessarily think about, but that in film affect things so drastically. And then these two that you mentioned, the Wall of Fire, which some of you who have probably watched the music video, or if you go watch it after this, you're going to be like, there was no Wall of Fire in there. It's the greatest tragedy. That I think Deej and the team prepped, because there was this whole original thing with the storyboard where during like part of the middle section of the song that references war and all the strife and how mankind isn't learning the lessons of peace and all this stuff, right? We were gonna have these like parallels and throwbacks to the fire gate that like Emmett Selk stands in front of in the final days, and that sort of fiery quality. So you all spent so long figuring out how you could set a door on fire. all this stuff. And unfortunately, because of shipping issues and a few other concerns, the stuff didn't even make it all in time. And it was like, well, there was supposed to be more than enough time for it to be there, but pandemic has caused terrible shipping delays. So we didn't even end up getting to do the stuff that you had spent so long doing safety consultations and things on.
We contacted like 6 special effects artists, one of them who worked on like Stranger Things, and we couldn't get for the show because they had a shoot with some other A-list. Like, we contacted a lot of people, and that's one of the things where it's like, oh, burning down a door, how is that hard? It's like, well, like getting the permits to do it, making sure that it's safe, that it's controlled, like just all of the little things, from how we ship it to the location, how we burn it, and how we dispose of it, were all just little things that it just didn't happen in time. And it's unfortunate, but now I have a 9-foot by 9-foot giant sheet of metal that I've made that's ready to be painted with kerosene and rubber glue to set on fire.
Well, we'll just have to do one of the future music videos. We'll have to have a lot of fire involved in it.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we need to do. It sounds great.
Sounds great. Can't wait. Also, for anyone wondering, yes, telling my partner, like, oh, so here's the thing. DJ is going to set something on fire and did ask me how comfortable I was being very close to it. And Bebop was like, they're not setting you on fire though, right? And I was like, no. And Bebop goes, okay, I trust DJ. And I was like, I mean, I hope I don't get set on fire, but they all know what they're doing, so I will do my best to not be the idiot that walks into the fire.
I mean, listen, if in a future video you want to be set on fire, there are safe ways to do it. There are people that we can call that will come out and help us do it, and we can get about a 10-second burn, generally.
Great. Well, we'll keep that in mind, definitely. Because nothing is better than singing on fire. So I feel very confident that I'd be good at doing that. So yeah, we should probably train for that, and I'll, just work towards my, like, stunt woman's licensing or, accreditations in the meantime.
It's Oklahoma. You don't need a license.
My God. So you were planning for that. Oh, the other one that you mentioned were all the little LED lights. So there are a couple shots in about 3/4-ish of the way through the video that feature like me standing in the middle of all these little flying balls of light. And what you'll be able to see in, I think, some of the behind-the-scenes pictures and in that as well, is that literally this was like a rig that Deej and Tristan put together. And it's like these little tiny, were they ping pong balls?
It was ping pong balls.
Little ping pong balls that they like hand threaded. How many?
I want to say 96.
Oh my God. 96 something lights hand threaded into these ping pong balls and then put up on this rig that's like this hula hoop, except obviously not. It was like, it's meant to support all the weight and stuff, but it's like a hula hoop that had all these lights hanging off of it that could then be spun so that, like, as the camera was going around me in the center on this like circular track, those would also be rotating around. And I mean, it was so wild to behold, just standing there in the middle of it, and all the cues and everything that had to go off to make it happen. But it looked super cool.
It was probably, that was probably the most tedious thing I have ever done in film, period. Because, we'll talk about it later whenever we talk about, like, the hardest shot, but it just... There was so much happening that just saying, like, oh, there's 96 lights hanging down, that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of how much was going on with it.
I mean, it was pretty incredible, and I loved it because you were talking about the storyboarding phases, right? And while we were doing this, DJ would on and off message me and ask about, what are some, visual symbolism, like what are some things that stand out to you? Because in particular, we were focusing on, since I was singing it in cosplay as the character that we literally only knew of as the Lady of Light at the time. We didn't even know if she was actually going to be a major character. It wasn't until they released, artwork and she was on there and, we were all guessing based off of a lot of evidence that likely what we knew about Elidibus and all of that would kind of lead to there having been some kind of equivalent of like a heart of Hydaelyn, and that given the little teaser that we had with her words at the very end of the patch cycle, that this may be that figure. So, I mean, we wanted to tie it into the ancients, and there are these lyrics and all kinds of things within the song that even talk about, you know, our souls have been torn and our bodies forsaken and all. Oh my gosh, it's just so good. And so we were taking a big gamble on it, but some of the things we would talk about leading up to it, and as we conceptualize it and as you prepared, you know, what are things that represent Hydaelyn, what are things that represent the ancients, what are things that represent, you know, these sorts of things, then we'd compare and contrast, and then watching you and the team like turn those into visual ideas that, you know, we could realize with a super teensy budget and our own innovation and experience was so fun. And the idea that these little balls, you know, DJ was asking me about like the other shards and the colors and all kinds of stuff. And so trying to get this emulation almost, yeah, of like these little orbs of light, both as like a light parallel and yet also kind of like the shards and all this stuff. I loved seeing it come to life in a different way.
It's a lot of fun. Like, I mean, that's why I do it. Is it's fun. It's bringing something from one medium to another, and it's hard and it's challenging. And if we are able to hit the nail on the head, which we did, like it was just a shot in the dark, and we nailed it. Like, it's excellent. Like that's what it's all for.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. So, for myself, I'm trying to think through, was there anything else about the actual planning on your end, like leading up to it and the coordination that you were thinking about or that you wanted to mention?
Nothing in particular. Just it's all. There was a lot of just bureaucratic moving pieces everywhere, like gears constantly turning, knowing when your flight was coming in was probably one of the biggest like question marks that we had, because depending on when your flight landed and when it left determined what we could do when. So yeah. As soon as you were like, here's my itinerary, I screenshotted it and sent it to almost every crew member, like, this is what's happening, this is what's happening.
I mean, it was those were a couple just ridiculously hectic weeks for me, you know? I'd been asked to go guest at OniCon in Texas, and this was like the first convention appearance that I had done post-pandemic. You know, I was at PAX East with ArenaNet talking about Guild Wars 2 and the Seize the Awkward mental health campaign right before we went on full lockdown for the first time. And since then, I hadn't been to a single convention. So as like suddenly the end of last year was rolling around, and before everything kind of popped up with Omicron and all that stuff, right? There was this little window where a lot of things were starting to happen again. And I'm looking at everything and I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, okay, I got invited to this convention. Okay, so, and then the release for Endwalker is this date, and I had just completed the media tour with Square Enix and Final Fantasy XIV, which was I just was so excited. It was so amazing. But I basically I just straight up did not sleep for a week. And then we were like releasing all the videos and hyping all the videos after that. And then I went out for OniCon for this whole weekend and got to visit some friends while we were in Texas. And then literally the next weekend, I just turned straight around. I did like 3 streams at home, and then I turned straight around and flew out to film this in Oklahoma. So, I mean, yeah, we were working with such a deadline. And at that point, we didn't even know. Like, we were literally about, like, it was the week of when we got the news that Endwalker had been delayed by 2 weeks. And I'm like...
I remember everyone on Twitter screaming, like, I can't believe Donna! And I just remember leaning back like, oh, thank God we have 2 extra weeks.
I know, me too. I was messaging Deej. I'm just sitting here like, oh my God. Oh, we've got more breathing room. Like, the editors don't have to destroy themselves. Like, poor Morgan does not have to destroy herself. Like, we just, you know, we have more time. We can polish this more. We don't have to worry. But I mean, like, really there for a while with just the availability and everything else that we had, we were thinking like, okay, yeah, we've got a day of setup, 2 days of filming. And then this, like, the music has to come in and the editing has to come in as fast as possible so that we can get this ready to release it before Endwalker hit. It was madness. It was madness. But it was so fun.
It was a blast. Like, that tight of a turnaround, I think we still could have done it without the 2-week push.
Yeah.
But it would have been hard. It would have been very, very hard. Luckily, we were actually prepared for the game not to be pushed 2 weeks. Like, we were even on set, and you saw this a little bit. We had our wonderful DIT, Justin McKee there,
Yes.
who was actively feeding footage to Morgan. So as we were shooting, we were editing, because we were assuming that we were going to have no time at all, so we just needed to pump it out as quickly as possible.
It was amazing. I mean, honestly, this actually just transitions us straight into the actual shooting days, right? And getting there, me flying in. DJ gave me my first ever slight vague tour of Oklahoma. I've never been there. It's very flat.
Yeah, it's very flat. It's very flat and it's very flat and very windy. That's it.
That seemed to be about it. You have a good zoo, I hear. Everybody kept telling me the zoo is good.
We do have a good zoo. The zoo's very good.
And cheap houses, and we had what was the burger that Morgan took me to have?
Oh, did she take you to Whataburger?
She took me to Whataburger. Yes, I'd never had Whataburger before, and we had Brewster's ice cream. No, what is the ice cream place? Brahms. Yes,
we had those are all very good, and then we also had Mexican food from the best place in Norman, which is Tarahumara's. It's so good. You can't get better than that.
It was very delicious.
I remember we ordered margaritas, and they actually brought the margaritas out, and I thought that your eyes were going to pop out of your head because they were a good this big.
They're so enormous. I was like, I'll just have a nice little margarita. We're finally here. Everything's going to happen. Oh, gee. And it's just like the size, a margarita the size of a small baby got brought out to me. It was delicious though, and I regret nothing. But yeah, so we went hard. And like you said, there were so many stations set up just all over. We actually filmed it, the bulk of it, at DJ's film warehouse that DJ actually also works for. And thank you again to everybody there for letting us do that. That was amazing. But we had, you said, what was the official? DIT?
DIT, yes. So so we split it up into different departments, and our camera department knocked it out of the park. Tanner Powell was the first day. I'm gonna brag about the camera department.
Do it, please go.
Tanner Powell was the first AC, and in the same vein of, I didn't mention him earlier whenever I said I needed these people, but I needed Tristan to run the grip and electric side of things. I needed Morgan to edit, Jordan to do this. Tanner is what held the camera department together. He was one of the keys to the whole thing. Without Tanner, we wouldn't have been able to be as fast with the camera, wouldn't have been able to get things to Justin as quick. He was able to, speak with and talk to our second AC and our camera utility and make sure that things were happening and lens swaps were happening and that everything was being done quickly and safely and correctly. And it's just the whole process. There are so many gears involved that I can't, if I say Tristan did a good job, it's Tristan did a good job because Tanner did a good job, and Tanner did a good job because this other person did a good job, and it's this just avalanche of everything relies on each other to function.
Yeah, and I mean what a lot of people who maybe have never done something like this may not know is just how fast everything goes, right? Like Deej was saying, we managed to keep it to 2 8-hour days, which is really difficult to do, honestly, when you have even something that seems as simple as a short song, right? There's so much that went into so many of those shots, and we were booked back to back to back to back to back, right? Because you want everybody to, have their day be used the most efficiently as possible and to be able to go home and eat dinner that night. And so literally stuff just flies by on the set, and without all of those cogs, it just doesn't happen. And even being in the middle of all of it, it was such a whirlwind because, you know, I'm standing there and DJ's like, okay, so now we're going to do, you know, these 3 lines, and we have like the audio playback that's in like a speaker. So, you know, you have all these calls going out like, and we're ready, and call, and roll music, and this. And as it's going, it's like, the music starts and you're just like, okay, I gotta go as fast as possible. And then the 3 lines are done. And then everybody's like looking over their thing. You know, we've got over there like a secondary DJ. I don't know all the terminology, so I'm going to use my terminology. We have the second little camera playback thing. And the camera playback thing, you know, looking at it and they're like, there was a hair in the shot, redo it. So we have to redo it. Or we get to like the other end where in like, you know, we've got the booth with the editors that had like their station set up, and like, you know, somebody comes out and is like, that one didn't go through, this one didn't, you know, like this one, we got to retake this. So you just like, you just do it rapid fire. I mean, I'd stand there, I'd do those 3 lines, I'd do those 3 lines, I'd do those 3 lines, and then like those 3 lines would be done, and I was like, wait, hold on, no, I was gonna do something else with it. Like, wait. So everything goes so fast, and I totally, like, when you're in the middle of it, everything you said, DJ, it makes so much sense, because it is just this chain, right? This person starts their action, that person starts their action, the talent's in the middle, and I'm just trying not to mess up. And like, there's so much that happens so fast to literally make sure that every single, like, you know, time block that we had for these 3 lines, we had, you know, 3 minutes for it or whatever, and then this next portion, and then this next shot, to make sure that we were hitting all of the literal minute by minute schedule that like Jordan had worked out, and that, you know, everybody had, you know, sort of come together to talk about, right? Again, you know, how long do we think the setup or teardown for this will be? How do we plan for that? When are we changing the backdrop? I mean, it's like an absolute whirlwind.
Yeah, there was so many things, like, I don't think I saw it, but one thing that's really confusing for some people whenever they step onto a film set is we don't shoot sequentially. Like, we don't start at the top of the song and then work our way down. Like, the first shot that we did was the shot of the eyeball, because that was the easiest to set up. So then we pulled back, we redid everything, and then we shot everything in the white void. And then we tore down all of the white paneling where there was just black paneling up, and then we shot everything there. Like, it's nothing is sequential. It's what makes sense and what's fastest and the most efficient in the moment.
Yeah, so like making sure that all of the equipment and stuff that needs to be taken down, hauled, set up, it's like the most efficient flow from one thing to the other, and that you're not like, if you have some huge heavy light or something, right, you're not like dragging it down to some location and then realizing 2 hours later that you have to haul it somewhere, you know, like haul it back down from a shelf to do some other shot or something. So everything is lined up in this way that makes sense technically, but that can like kind of plummet you into whatever part at any given moment. And what was a real, like, this was my greatest struggle bus, probably. I guess I could include this in the what was hardest portion, but you know, as we're there day of, like, DJs, you know, I'm asking, you know, like, what do you need? Do you need this shot to, like, do I need to be more contained? Do you want bigger gestures? Do you want, you know, my face at a specific angle? How was that? Was that, you know, emotive enough? Not emotive enough? Like, how do you feel about this? And then there were some shots that DJ had lined up that, describe to me how you did this, because I'm actually curious. You shot them at double speed and then slowed them back down to normal?
Yes. So what we did was we had the music playback, and going back again to the Everything Matters, the day before we had gone and recorded the entire song at a recording booth with Chris Borland. And then we left there and we were like, we gave him our notes. We are just hoping, and we know, but we are hoping that he is able to get us the files by tonight so that we can cut it up, like, and do the editing that we need, so whenever we go to set tomorrow, we can do our jobs. It's all of those little building blocks. But so what we did was we actually recorded the music, and then we had it played back at double speed, and so like if something would take 2 seconds to play back on a normal, like, single normal speed audio tape, it would instead take 1 second. And while we were doing that, we were also shooting our camera at double speed. So rather than shooting at 24 frames per second, we were shooting at 48 frames per second. And so what that does is whenever we get into post, we could slow it down, and the lips were still synced because Rook was singing along with the music at double speed, so it's synced. But then like the hair is flowy and ethereal looking, and it looks unique, and you can tell that there's something odd about it. But the lips are synced, so you're like, well, this is correct. But what's weird about it? And it's just to evoke a different emotion about it. And Morgan and I have not been able to watch TV for the last few months because we always look at the person's lips and go, it's out of sync. And then we just turn off the show.
I mean, that was such a challenge because it gives this incredible ethereal sense. But like, we're on set and DJ says to me, so you're cool to do these sections twice as fast, right? And I was like, which sections? DJ's like, you know, the one that's like a whole bunch of random words that you spent weeks trying to memorize and haven't stopped repeating in your head ever since. And I'm like, that section, huh? You sure that's the one you want at double speed, DJ? Because I mostly remember them in normal speed, but if I'm sitting here, like, you know, wander, listen, stumble, Twitter, tweet, run, wander, follow. Like, it's just like... It's like, so, like, literally as we were recording it, it was so fast. And you're trying to deal with like the lights and the like limited amount of time and the recording that you're trying to keep up with, and like just hoping that, like, you know, okay, well, if the camera is behind me in this one part and I think I flubbed the words, that's fine. I just have to make sure I definitely do the next one when the camera comes around again and sees my face. Oh my gosh. It was, as a performer, that part was so challenging. Especially in that kind of really rapid word thing, because one, those words don't have a ton of connections that like are a, you know, sentence structure of logic, right? So I had built up in my head like what I thought Heidelin was thinking of with each of them. You know, and like what I thought she was referencing. And so I'm like trying to blast through that visualization at like Mach 10 and like say it as fast as I can, while also still trying to give them some sense of the impetus that I wanted them to have, you know? So that was I mean, it was super fun, but oh my gosh, what a challenge. And I mean, yeah, just like, in general, I guess I just wanted to mention that being on set was so amazing with everybody. Like, it was, one, just handled so professionally, because obviously you're all professionals. But two, there's just something to be said about doing a project for fun and doing a project that's just satisfying to just collaborate and to work together and just enjoy working together. And I mean, obviously, as we were doing stuff like this, you know, I was like, I really do hope people watch and listen and love it. But, you know, like I said to everybody in content creation, you never really go into anything assuming anything. You're like, maybe one person will see this and love this, or maybe, you know, 10,000 people will. And you just, or more, you know, right? But it's one of those things where really we were there because we all just were having a blast doing what we do, and everybody was so courteous and kind, and it was so great. Oh my gosh, Jordan made the most delicious like chicken dumplings ever for lunch one day. I'm like, you secured the locations, you did all this stuff, you made the schedule, you're here running things, and you made chicken dumplings? Jordan Wilson, how do I become like you? Please make me your apprentice. Please. Oh my gosh. Was there anything from that you remember, like from the shooting, or like moments that you remember that you thought were really great or you really enjoyed?
I really enjoyed all of it. There wasn't anything that I didn't enjoy. Like, those stressful environments, like, sometimes, you know, stress is like, it's stress, but like, that stress is good to me. Like, I feel in control during it. Like, people will come up and ask me questions, and I will have an answer, and I will be able to respond, and like, I know what's happening. So I enjoy the entire process. Even, you know, from the small things of, well, I need to get this location, so I have to talk to this person to get them to sign this that says I'm not going to burn the building down, to showing up at Jordan Kinman's house with these like massive mirrors and go, yeah, break these, and then just leaving.
We did use broken mirror shards, which we had a safety meeting about day of. So, but they were very cool, and the reflections were amazing. That was incredible to watch get set up and everything too. That was so cool. Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. And I have to be honest with everybody. It was, like I said, I'm so proud of DJ, because it was pretty amazing. I mean, literally there were moments where I watched as 5 people simultaneously were talking to DJ, and DJ was like, I heard your question. Give me 1 second. I will get back to you after I answer this question. And then it would be like, okay, what's your question? Yes, so you're going to go here, here, here. Pull down that one. It's the point size 55394. Great. And now I'm back to your question. So what you're going to do is, like, it was unbelievable. You were on fire.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, which of the shots that we did, because obviously there was a lot to coordinate, even just from that story, as it indicates, but which of the shots was your favorite to do and why?
So honestly, all of the stuff in the Black Void, where it was just the Black Void, I ended up really liking. Like, because with the macro I shot, it sounds a little odd. I knew that was gonna work, but I still didn't get it the way that I wanted it. Whenever we were shooting the White Void, I was like, man, we're gonna have to do some special effects for this. I don't know about this. Like, it's like, it's on the edge. But then whenever we started to do the things in the Black Void, where it was just the Black Void, and we had the the spotlights up above, I looked in the monitor and I was like, oh, this is it. Like, this looks good. Like, I'm confident that this is fine, and this is what I want, and it's what I have written out has been realized. I feel good now. So those are my favorite shots to do.
I love those shots too, because as we were all kind of watching to see what was happening from these 2 months of experimentation and drafting and storyboarding and, conceptualizing these ideas, whenever something would come out really great and everybody was like gathered around the monitor, you just hear everybody like, oh, that's sick, that's good, that's good. Like, I loved it. And I'd be over there. And I told everybody, I was like, I hate watching myself. So, like, I mean, I will do it for feedback or critique of myself if, like, there's something I just want to know about, be it audio levels or stuff with performance, right? But normally, I can't just, like, look at footage and be like, yeah, that looks awesome, because I'm already like 50 million steps ahead in my brain about every single tiny thing I would change, or like I would do this, or I should have done that, or this thing or that thing. So it was really exciting to have that energy with everybody. And then I started kind of going over to the cameras, Morgan's over there like, you sure you don't want to see it? And I was like, maybe I'll go see it. And I go over there and like I look at it and I was like, that's sick, that's sick. Like,
right?
When a shot comes together, especially when we're all trying stuff that is, like you had done so many tests, like, Deej had been rigging up test rigs literally like for the past couple months just to make sure that the theories would pan out and how stuff would work, right? But to actually see it all together and like with me in the middle and everything else happening, it was very exciting. I really loved, I love those opening shots, like you said, in the Black Void, as we call it, where it was like the black background and then like me just like singing with the spotlights. I thought that was so pretty. I loved some of the effects with like the mirror shards and the way the fog and the light beams came through. Oh my gosh. And the White Void stuff, I think my favorite shot from the entire video is that one that you got with that special lens where it makes the like refraction, you know what I'm talking about? And like all the mirror images, and it's the like eyes open. Oh my god, I love that shot so much. I just look at it sometimes. I am so in love with how that turned out. I adore it. It's like my favorite shot from the whole thing, I think.
Yeah, there were a couple in there that like I look at and I'm like, like overall the whole project I'm proud of, right? Like I can look at that and go, like, this got made. I'm proud of the work that we did. Like, I'm proud of the crew and the effort that we put in, and the final product. I'm proud that we did this. But then there's a few shots where I'm like, All right, that's pretty rad.
That was good though. That was good though. Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. So then, which of the shots was the hardest to do?
It's the ping pong balls. Without a doubt in my mind, it's the ping pong balls. So to really explain what it is, like this is one that we like barely tested. We like did the final test of it the day before, but even then it wasn't the final test. What we had done is we had rigged up in the ceiling a chain pulley that would go back over the tarp to where Sam was, and he would turn this big crank that we made. We made a crank. Like, we had to make something for him to hold, which would then spin this massive rig. It looked like a cross, and it just had all these ping pong balls hanging down from it. But some of the problems that we ran into were, like, we couldn't run power cables to it because then it would get tangled. We wanted them to change colors, so we needed to be able to control them. So we had to figure out how to wirelessly control and power these lights. So the reason we landed at 96 lights was because that was the, like, Goldilocks number of the amount of lights that we can control and power for 30 minutes. Like, we had batteries and, like, these DMX controllers, which is, like, this whole numerical system to control values of lights that turn on and off, and we had all of this together, and we had, like, Tristan had an iPad, and he's just, like, tapping and tapping, like, trying to get it to work, and then he presses go, and then the lights turn on, and you could just see he's like, it works! It works!
Yep. I mean, it was even just in the moment, it was such a thing to coordinate. Like, they had to be spinning fast enough that they wouldn't collapse in towards the center where I was singing. And the first time that we did it, I was like, and I'm ready to sing the song. Like, there were just, like, ping pong balls dragging across my face, like, smacking me. We're like, they're just like, faster, faster. But then if you went too fast, they'd be like, whew, like around the edges. So it was like finding the perfect velocity, and it was no joke because I think wasn't Sam like on a ladder turning it, so like he was having to balance himself up there and turn this thing, and it like takes a fair amount of just like upper body strength to even turn that. So it was like, you know, we'd stop. Do you need a break? Okay, we're taking a second. Everybody drink some water? Okay, let's go again. And we finally got it to where they were all going, and, you know, it was that sweet spot where we could actually get some of the shots we needed.
Yeah, it was a nightmare because, like, we had to, each ping pong ball, we had to first get an LED strip, cut it to an appropriate length. Like, we had these, like, spools of, like, 50 yards of LED. We had to pull it out, cut, like, two, so they were, like, this big diodes. We had to cut two out, fold it in on itself, solder the connections on, cut a ping pong ball open, gently stick it in so that we didn't break the solder, glue it together, go to the other end, and then like add a connect, because this is all just bare copper. Then we had to add the connectors on, and then we're like, all right, either it works or it doesn't.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
so
go ahead.
There were some lights that on the day we like turned it on and they didn't turn, like, you were off somewhere else, but like I was sitting there and they turned it on. I said, those lights aren't working. Just cut them. And they walked up with scissors and just like went, ka, 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 and they just ran off with them.
And it looks fine. Nobody could tell.
Yeah, no one could tell. It was great.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that was incredible to try and get that effect again of these like little shards of light, or, you know, these kind of balls like planets or stars, or, you know, it was worth the effort, and it was a really like interesting thing to even hear about day of or watch as you were all working with it. For me in particular, I think probably the hardest ones, I mean, that double speed was so difficult because it was like, we're at the end of the day when we shot a lot of those, and we were trying to do double speed, and I was like standing on a box in a parking lot for a lot of the shots. We did multiple shots, right? Where like we did some outside, then we came inside, and you don't even see in the final music video all of the takes that we shot. And Deej just kept saying to me, because I was like, are you sure we have enough? Are you sure? And the editors are like, we're good, we're covered. Deej is like, that's why we have so many different shots of this, so that there will be something that has all the like exact right words and everything you need, so don't worry about it. I was like, okay, because that double speed was so hard. But what I have to mention is that I ended up finding that it was much harder to walk around in nature in that dress while singing and trying to face the camera than I thought. And I did have an incredibly glorious moment where I walked straight into a tree branch in the middle of a take that poked me directly in the eyeball, and DJ's like, keep going, keep going. And I'm like, has our bodies forsaken? Like, part of that shot did end up making it into the final, like the tail end of it, where I lean against the tree. But I literally before that was like, and singing and sing. Oh my god, oh my god. And then I was just like wincing as I looked past the tree. Like, navigating the wilderness with these long flowing robes is not nearly, I don't know how the ancients did it. I don't know how Azem, the traveler, did it, because it is not easy. It's not easy. So yeah, there were a lot of different challenges with so many things, technically. Also, it's just hard to wake up super early and do hair and makeup DJ, I'm gonna be honest. It's very hard. It's tough for my brain to do.
Listen, it is what it is. You have two options. Either you can wake up early, or you can force yourself to sleep through the day. That's the film way of doing things. Do you want to wake up at 4 a.m. or wake up at 9 p.m.?
Well, maybe anybody out there just want to be my personal hair and makeup stylist. Just do it for free. I'm sorry, I know. I mean, I want to always pay people for the skills that they have, but also, you know, we do a content creation on a budget, so...
Yeah.
But we continue to, I mean, there are so many amazing ways to do this, and I feel really lucky to get to do full-time content creation. So, you know, we keep pushing forward and looking for more things, and we wouldn't have been able to do it even without the support of a subathon that we had on Twitch towards the end of the year that really helped me be able to kickstart and do everything with the costumes and the rebrands that we had from Bird of Chester Rookery and stuff like this music video. So let me just put that as a shout out, because it was hours of hard work, as we've talked about, and a lot of people that came together for it, but also a lot of people that before we ever even set foot on the set made it possible for us to do this. So thank you all really so much. With that, Deej, what did we learn? What would we want to do differently for future projects, which we are hopefully very much planning to do? But what were our takeaways?
Some of the takeaways that I have are, we need to make sure that, like, it's all technical from our end. Making sure that we are using more modern equipment in a way. Like, some of the equipment that we had was incredibly modern. Like, we had some of the best lights in the industry, some of the best, like, computers in the industry, but things like our storage devices, or the camera that we use, the glass that we, or the lens that we use, so we call it glass. Like, they were all a little older, and it's fine. It looked incredible and looked great, and it made what we wanted, but it could have been better and easier. Also, just we had good communication overall, so I really want to say that, like, there was, in terms of personnel, we did awesome. It was all just tech related issues, and there wasn't really issues, just like, man, I wish this was better. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, like you said earlier, I feel so proud of what we were able to do, especially for this being the first time we'd ever tried to do something like this, you know? You obviously have a ton of experience in film. I have my experience having done various, you know, productions, film classes, you know, acting for camera, those sorts of things. But it's really different when you're trying to put something together like this with a lot of volunteer effort and, you know, an excitement for a game that you love, and trying to bring together so many different people in the middle of a pandemic as well. So there were a lot of, like, moving parts that, I mean, honestly, I think overall for a first effort and for doing something, I am blown away by everything that we were able to do and by the response from everybody. Oh my gosh, like, thank you to anybody who's watched, listened, commented, shared it. I mean, those first couple days after we released it, just seeing people say, like, we loved this was the most cathartic experience after all the work, after like the hours of watching DJ try to haul this Steadicam, which is this like massive camera that he has to like rig to his body when we were doing all the outside shots up and down cliffs, across fields, through the forest, through like all of those hours that we had poured into it, the hours that I had spent beforehand practicing the song over and over, driving my neighbors insane with like me just singing this song 100 times, making Bebop word check me on every single one of the word verses. It was just every single word of appreciation and kindness, and anybody who watched afterwards, it was like a direct just feel good return, you know. But it is one of those things where, of course, I think you always see stuff where I'm like, oh, now that I know how this went, okay, well, this time, you know, I try to make my best use of this time. I try to do this thing. You know, I have an idea of how that looked now, especially with the hair and makeup stuff too. I was like, how that looked on those cameras. So then I would have an idea of how I could even tweak that so it would look better, look more natural. You know, things like the lashes and like blending them in slightly more and all those sorts of things where I was like, oh, okay, now I have a better idea of how all of this looks. And from the performance side, you know, areas where I thought, yes, I really did feel like I landed this in that moment, or other times where I was kind of like, oh, I think maybe now that I have an idea of how I should pace myself for a burst effort like this, I know where like I need to do a little bit more here, or I need to address this, or, you know, those sorts of tiny details, right? But overall, I felt really good about it. I mean, gosh, I would love to do something in the future with more musicians and like live musicians that are involved, because Endwalker, who did our music, was incredible and so kind, and oh my gosh, is just such a vibrant and just passionate soul. I love Anne so much, but like, it's so great to have, we did all that music digitally, and it's so great to have collaborations with other musicians who bring their own things to the table, and to be able to work on stuff like that. You know, we've got incredible musicians in the 14 community as well, so to even bring to life their talents and be able to do something like this music video, like this level of quality with them featured, would just be chef's kiss. It'd be so good. You know, so I think those were mostly my big takeaways, for me at least.
There was a point whenever we had the music, we had the color applied, because like our cameras don't shoot in the color that you saw, they shoot in raw, and then we had to add color. We had added the color, we'd done the effects, and like we watched it, and there was, I can't remember when it was, but there was a point where something just like clicked, and I was like, oh, this is good. Oh, this is gonna be good. like I know that even the crew, like you were practicing singing in the parking lot at one point, and they were like, what? And they were like, it like clicked in their head, like, oh, this is gonna be good. Like, this is gonna be one of the good ones.
I mean, I'm honestly happy to hear that. When you told me during it, I was so happy too, because like I said, I had gotten so in my head about my singing for so long. Like, when you're in music school, the entire thing is that you are just being critiqued, and when you're in a competitive music conservatory program like I was, like, you know, you literally each year have to do what's known as a jury, where if you don't meet the criteria, you perform in front of all of the professors of the school, and if you don't meet their criteria, you can get kicked out of the music program. And so it's like that kind of pressure where you're constantly tearing something apart, like your voice. I always say to people, if you are like an amateur singer, if you're somebody who's gone to school like me, like whoever you are, just remember that your voice is your own, and it's unique and wonderful and beautiful. And I can't say how touched I was, honestly, to like be on set and yes, have you be like, oh yeah, and then everybody was like, damn, she can sing. And I was like, oh, I can. Oh God, I'm so glad. But no, I mean, it's, especially when you love something as much as, I mean, I love Answers, and as much as you and I love games and creation, and you want it to be something that, yes, you can come away saying, I feel like for what we were able to achieve, that was good. For like the resources we had, that was good. For the design and vision we had, that was good. And I feel like we hit all of those, which was so exciting.
I feel like with the resources and time that we had, that is the absolute best product possible that we could have made. Like there's like, sure, we can nitpick and be like, oh yeah, we could have had like a cart whenever we were in the forest, or we could have had like this thing, or we could have like done this shot a little bit. We had 2 days and no money. like we did as good as we could with what we had, and like I think that I told you that at some point of like, this is as good as it gets. Like, and it's still great.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was so happy to see it all together, and I still watch it even now, which really says something, because like I said, normally I can't even stand to look at myself, so that's great. And I guess the very last thing was just that, looking at it now, because like I said, when we made this video, we didn't actually know at the time if this was going to even pan out to be a thing. I mean, like, DJ and I had real conversations where I was just like, it's very likely that we release this, and then Endwalker comes out, and they're like, yeah, this woman is not at all even related to Heidelin, and, you know, we're just like,
yeah.
We were so worried. I mean, because when you think about how, you know, how much energy there is surrounding an expansion, you want something like that when you've put time and energy into it to like resonate with what's gonna happen. And then actually the first time in Endwalker, because DJ hasn't played it yet, which is okay. I know you're waiting, you're taking your time. There's been a lot happening at the beginning of this year.
See, I'm busy.
Yeah. Plus the servers were a disaster for a little while. So DJ is gonna get to it, everybody, don't worry. But I was messaging DJ and I was like, do you care if I kind of tell you a thing? DJ's like, no, tell me. And I was like, Answers is in it everywhere! Like, I was so excited. I was like, 5 minutes in, Answers! Like, 1/3 of the way in, Answers! Halfway through, Answers! One of the most emotionally impactful and devastating sequences I have ever seen in this game, when Venat is walking from the ruined ashes of Amarat and her world through the age. Answers! I did not stop sobbing the entire thing. I would like stop a play session, and I have the Venat mask up here, which is amazing. Cobran, who's actually also a lore person and a caster in the community, saved my butt. And actually, as thanks for me being on the Lore Lines podcast that Cobran does, sent me a Venat mask that he had printed. I had commissioned a Venat mask like half a year before, and the artist had some life difficulties and didn't inform me that it wasn't going to be getting there until a week before. I was losing it, and Cobran swept in and literally sent me this mask before we left for this convention. Like, it got there just in time so we could use it. So I would get done with these play sessions in Endwalker, I just hold the mask. I just hold it. I was like, I'm so glad we did this. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't wait for you to play through it, Deej, because the way they use and re-envision this song is amazing. And you'll be happy to know there's a couple other amazing ones, including one called Flow, which I've already had several requests that we do a music video of. So.
Okay.
DJ's like, and I'm adding it to my notes.
No, I'm looking it up.
Flow. There's one, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's one that Venat sings and then later ends up being reiterated. So there's some like really gorgeous songs. And Endwalker, as always, I mean, gosh, Soka knocked it out of the park with the music, and also paid such an homage and tribute to all of the music that had come before in the game, including Uematsu's compositions. So I really hope everyone feels the depth of emotion, I guess, that I have felt for this song for so long now. And to see it realized in the game, and to be able to realize it in our own way and live a part of it through this character and the music video that we made was just, it was awesome. I mean, Deej, you didn't like the music of 14 that much before, but I shouldn't say didn't like, it's just that you weren't a big fan of playing it in game all the time. How do you feel having now gone through this process?
I think that I've always thought that the music of Final Fantasy XIV is great. I'm just a lousy degenerate and like to watch movies while I play games.
Oh, it's like you're in the film industry or something.
Yeah, it's crazy. Who'd have thunk? realistically though, like I had a chance to actually look at some of the lyrics of the song, and like I mean I had to digest it, and like I really had to like surgically pick the song apart to find things like motifs and things that I could like grab and, you know, really like visualize, you know, the shards, you know, the light, the dark, like all of that stuff, and figuring out how to show that. And I developed a new appreciation for the music because of that. And really that's what it's about, is, you know, learning more about the subject that we are, you know, making these things for. And I really feel like I did. I learned a lot about the music from this.
I'm so happy to hear it. I really am. I mean, 14 is just a game that has artistry in it on so many levels, and the passion the community has for it, and all of the different facets, whether you were somebody who from the get-go loved the story, the music, the artistic design, all of these different components that go into it, the mechanical element, right? I know so many people that have entered the game and thought that they would never maybe care that deeply about something, but then, like you said, as they immerse themselves more in the lyrics of something, or this moment, this story beat, this boss design, this fight, they start to find that it all comes to life for them in this way and resonates so powerfully. And I mean, I hope everybody enjoys the music and enjoys our version of Answers, our humble tribute to this amazing song and this amazing game. With that, I think we are going to wrap it up. But DJ, did you have, I know you made a Twitter, did you have anything that you want to pitch as far as where people can find you on the internet, or or on Twitch, or?
Don't find me on the internet.
Find DJ here. We are going to be playing Halo Infinite soon. Hopefully.
We will, whenever that eventually comes out. Realistically, if you want to get a hold of me, it's amateur_professional on Discord, in the Discord. I have an IMDb. You can probably find it if you look hard enough to see what I've done. It's not hard to find me. I just don't like to be found.
Unless, of course, you have promising film projects. And
yes, of course.
Can pay. Well, I don't know. If it was a really good project.
I mean, realistically, what I tell people is either you pay me or you feed me. Like, those are the options.
I love it. It's so good. But yes, I mean, honestly, DJ, it was such a pleasure to work with you. I mean, obviously, we're friends. I feel so lucky to have met you through Twitch, but to get to do something like this, too, and both pour our creativity into it was really special. So I am proud of you, and thank you so much. I'm proud of me too for everything we did, and I'm proud of everybody who was a part of it. But it wouldn't have happened if you hadn't said yes when I shot you that out of the blue Discord message. So
I appreciate it. I'm really proud of you. It's great. Like, I'm proud of you, and really, like, before we wrap this up completely, I have to thank the entire crew for what they did. This project would not, like, you know, like, I'm getting a lot of thanks. I cannot thank or push that thanks from me and push it onto the, you know, the electricians, the grips, the, you know, assistant cameras, the, you know, the sound engineers, everyone that was involved in the process from start to finish. Like, this wouldn't have been possible without them. Like, they are truly the reason that this thing got done. Like, I'm just one guy, but this team that we had built up underneath us is who carried this project.
Yes, I cannot agree more. I mean, from beginning to end, it was a genuine pleasure to be there on set with everyone. Everybody was so helpful, went out of their way to be considerate and helpful of each other. And, you know, and me, my humble self, sitting there on my phone in the fancy special talent chair, but who really, honestly, was just the person you will see in front of the camera. Like, literally, I never thought that we could do something like this. I never thought that even though I could dream of something like this, that we would have a way to make it happen. And we wouldn't have had a way to make it happen if it weren't for every single person that was involved. Even straight down to, like, somebody who handed me a water bottle, or who, like, made sure we had snacks on a table, or who, you know, scheduled the bigger picture things, or operated the cameras, or did the thing. Sam, thank you for turning the thing. I'm sure your arms wanted to fall off, but just everything was incredible. So we couldn't have done that. And in that same vein, we couldn't have done it without all of you and everybody else. Thank you again to those of you who have supported the community, who've supported even me doing stuff here on Twitch, who have come over to say hello or have found me through Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, wherever it was. Here on YouTube is what I meant to say a few seconds ago. You know, we just got started doing special content here, but I only have bigger and, you know, more ambitious and exciting plans for a lot of the things that we can do, including a lot more of this if, you know, the pandemic is willing and DJ and our amazing crews are welcome to do it. But as always, to get more support and to be able to keep doing this, it wouldn't be something we could do without, you know, our subscribers, people who've donated time, energy, money, or just passion, who have encouraged us to do this, and who even just left a kind comment, you know, afterwards saying, hey, this was really awesome and it made a difference to me. So if you haven't yet seen the cover of Answers that we shot, check it out here on YouTube. You can also find their lore videos as well as a variety of other things, including my Endwalker playthrough. But you can find me live many days a week over on Twitch as well, and on the Aetheryte Radio podcast with Gamer Escape talking Final Fantasy on Saturdays, and the Lightbringers podcast on Fridays talking about Guild Wars 2. We play a lot of different games, but we are very passionate about all of them. So I hope that you find maybe a little bit of that passion as well and get to connect with all of us wherever we are. Thank you again so much for joining me, DJ.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast from start to finish.
Yeah. Here's to many more.
Here's to many more. I don't have anything to drink.
Oh, I've got this mason jar. Hold on, and a water bottle. I can cheers for both of us. Oh, you got one.
Yeah,
Here you go.
Yeah.
Cheers. Thanks, man.
Yeah.